A very warm welcome to the University of Limerick for those of you who are from the outside, to the Faculty of Science and Engineering for those of you inside, and to the Bernal Institute that is co-located with it. A warm welcome to, first of all, our candidates, all excited. There is a decision, the jury told me there is a decision, so there is a winner this afternoon. Warm welcome to your supporters. I saw some that I sort of thought were in the family category or in the closer friends category. At least they looked so proud, that must be the case. And to all colleagues from the university, students alike. Very warm welcome today. Maybe a little bit about the program today. The running order of things, I will welcome you, which I just did. And then hand over to our keynote speaker, Katrina Devereaux. Then to the president, who will put the sustainability challenge in the wider ambitions of the university. Then we have the pitches of all our 5 candidate teams, and they will start with a brief presentation on video, and then they will complement that all in about 8 minutes each. And then the president will come back and announce who's the winner. She knows, I do not know, the jury knows, nobody else knows, so that's exciting. Just as a word of welcome, when Katrina and I prepared for this meeting, said, "Oh, why are we doing this?" And if we take sustainability and climate change and renewable energy and circularity, they're all big words. We realize importance, but it is all far away and maybe even overwhelming. And the UL Sustainability Challenge is designed to bring all of that closer and make it more tangible. And many of our candidates, but also the other students and others in the room, that you will see your career develop along those lines. Anything that you will be doing in your further career, and it will be a good career as well. So it is a good preparation for anything. It will be transformative for Ireland, it will be transformative for the European economy. And sustainability doesn't mean romantic and going back to old days when everything was better, but it is modern. It is green, it is digital, and that is the way that we go out. The key role for research and development, that's why we have it as part of our research week. It is potentially interesting for enterprise innovation, existing enterprises, and even starters. So that is what we try to stimulate as a university. That's not only our position, it is the position of the Irish government as well. Green and digital, if you look into their announcements. So the Sustainability Challenge offers a platform for our students where action is central. Action of research ideas, action of concepts and ambitions. It is great to see the progress of our very diverse finalist team. It is really apples and oranges and bananas, I think, in this case. So it was a real task for our jury to come to a wise decision, but I'm fully confident it's a very wise decision in that case. And in the end, we have a winner, but I think we have already winners, and because they are winners, we are all winners. So that's at least our position. To kick off, I would, of course, like to thank the ones who enabled it first. Of course, I forget in the thrill at the end to thank them. That is this part of the 50th anniversary of the university, UL 50. That committee, as well as the foundation, have supported this work. I would like to take the opportunity also thank the jury already. So whatever the outcome, I thank you already for your work. That's Joe Gibbs, Sarah Hayes, and Derek Platt. Thank you very much for your time that you spent on it. Certainly also the core team colleagues that are there, Chris Forty, Rita Buckley, Christine Brennan, Onya O'Neill, who was stolen from us by Nestle company. I think they evaluate quality, they judge quality. Irma Hurrigan, Robert Ree, and Finbar Murphy. And then the wider group of phase 1 evaluators, that was Derek was part of that, Joe Gibbs was part of that also, but also Colin Fitzpatrick, I saw him come in, but he's there. Yeah, Colin, thank you very much for your help there. And some of them who acted as mentors to these groups, and we were not involved in the evaluation. So with that, I would like to invite Katrina Devereux, as a well-known documentary maker, producer, and a warm supporter for technology development, innovation, and climate action. So, Katrina, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me, and thank you, Luke, for that kind introduction. It really is a pleasure to be here today for this exciting event, and I was so delighted to be invited to come and hear about the Sustainability Challenge projects and to help celebrate finalists and their achievements. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a broadcaster and science communicator, and I've been covering stories and making documentaries about Ireland's sustainability journey for almost 20 years. I present a science series on RTE called 10 Things to Know About, which highlights different areas of Irish research, increasingly with a climate focus in recent years. And we're covering everything from the construction of offshore floating wind platforms, to how microbes in soil actually sequester carbon. But my main job is as a producer of documentaries and factual programming, and I've been telling stories about the climate crisis and efforts to tackle it for quite some time. And as you know, among all the other challenges that Ireland is facing at the moment, climate action and decarbonisation is absolutely critical for us and for future generations. The world needs to make significant cuts to emissions by 2030, and the government has set ambitious targets. But considering that the Keeling curve is, still pointing skywards, there is a huge amount of work for us to be done to break away from fossil fuels, change our food systems, and learn to survive and thrive within our planetary boundaries. But the tools of change are already available to us, and like so many other issues, simply require political and social will to be implemented. And like climate anxiety is a thing. It can sometimes feel a lot when we're doom scrolling and on the unfolding realities of the climate crisis and the uncertainties that the future brings. And we know that people can become paralyzed by bad news. But the research also tells us that the antidote to despair is action. And that is what is so heartening about UL's Sustainability Challenge, the opportunity to translate a good idea into something good for the planet is something that we need to see more and more of. And as the late American environmentalist Donella Meadows said, there is too much bad news for complacency, but there is too much good news for despair. And after a morning of listening to the pitches of these projects, I really feel buoyed by the talent and the commitment displayed by these finalists, so well done to ye. This challenge is an exciting way to look at how we can harness the talents and the imaginations and the energy of those who care about solving some of the world's problems and then scaffold them to see their ambition realized. And you're like, well, what has documentary making got to do with that? And I suppose telling stories about these people and these achievements is important so that we all kind of keep going in the same direction. And at the moment, I'm working on 2 documentary projects, which I hope will inspire people to see the exciting possibilities that lie in regenerating our planet and living sustainably, and give people the confidence that this massive switch can happen in a generation. I'm making a feature-length documentary which will eventually end up on Netflix about water stories around the world, exploring how water is central to humanity and such an important part of us, and how our culture and how, as we face the challenges of climate change, how we will have to learn to live with water better and respect it more than we have done in the last few hundred years. And many of you will already know, the depth of the water crisis internationally. In Ireland, we have massive problems in terms of our pollution of our rivers and water systems. But the reason we're making the documentary is to shine a light on people around the world who have answers and solutions. And actually just this morning, I got a text saying we've safely landed in Shanghai because the crew have gone to China to film with a man called Professor Kong Jiang Wu. And he's building what they're calling sponge cities 200 cities in China with these enormous like really beautiful wetlands built into like concrete cities in China. And they're created kind of acknowledging that in monsoon regions, cities and people need to learn to live with periods of too much rain and too little rain. So Professor Wu is kind of adapting traditional Chinese water management practices into modern cities and reaping all the benefits that those nature-based solutions bring. So beautiful recreational amenities, cooler cities, flood protection, replenished groundwater, better resilience to extreme weather events. And instead of kind of building big concrete walls to address sea level rise, he's building mangrove parks for coastal resilience. So, this is happening. These are all good things that are already happening. Last week, the crew, it was actually interesting because one of our presentations earlier this morning was just about kind of indigenous knowledge and how to harness that. And last week, our crew were filming in New Zealand, where Maori cultural beliefs around water are being bedded into national water policy. So they have a river there called the Wanganui River, you might have heard, has been given the same legal status as a person. So it has to be treated in a completely holistic way, respecting those rights. And, that's one thing to have it on paper, but now they're getting down to the crux of how that manifests itself practically, and how it's playing out has kind of unforeseen positive consequences. So, for example, there's a river called the Waikato River, and they have a big wastewater treatment plant, and they're like cleaning it to the absolute, international best standards, yet the local Maori tribes don't want that water discharged into the river because it goes against their cultural beliefs. So the water company buy a big tract of land and irrigate the land with this water, which is still quite nitrogen-rich water. Abundance of crops, Maori tribes happy, river system given an opportunity to recover. And they're just kind of examples of how if you harness something that's maybe outside of the kind of conventional thinking or approaches, you get benefits that you hadn't really thought about. We also filmed with this woman called Leanne Fo, who is a Dutch water activist, and she leads a movement called Drinkable Rivers. And she's calling for us to restore our rivers so that they are clean enough to drink. And, that might sound like kind of a crazy ambition, but we used to have pristine rivers. So why do we accept, polluters destroying our natural resources? So that's what the documentary is about, is kind of highlighting people who are, trying to change the way we think about things. And then at this other side, I'm making a documentary, which might sound completely different, about the laying of the transatlantic cable from Valentia Island in Kerry to Heart's Content in Newfoundland. In 1867, so it connected North America and Europe, enabling news to be exchanged in minutes and not the 10 days it used to take for boats to cross the Atlantic with important news. And on the surface, they might seem like two quite unrelated topics, water and Victorian internet cables. But actually, when I was thinking about today and how the sustainability challenge offers hope and opportunity, these two documentaries about water and humanity and the telegraph cable and scientific breakthroughs offer versions of hope and opportunity too. So, respecting nature, protecting and restoring our vital resources like our water systems, or our soil, or our bogs, isn't rocket science. These so-called nature-based solutions are all very doable. When we get out of nature's way and give it space to recover, it rebounds impressively. Similarly, we have the renewable technologies to replace fossil fuels ready to go. We just need to deploy them at scale. And, as the deployment has the potential to be transformative for Limerick and the west coast of Ireland. So there are two ready-to-go solutions and two big reasons to be hopeful. But there are still significant questions to be answered when it comes to designing and building our future within planetary boundaries and, fully creating a circular economy. But in the mid-19th century, laying a cable across the Atlantic seemed like a completely impossible feat. In fact, the working title of our documentary is The Impossible Cable. You can tell me if you think it's a good idea or not in a minute. But they managed it, Scientists like Morse, Wheatstone, and Thomson, later to become Lord Kelvin, could not imagine in their wildest dreams that the transatlantic cable breakthrough would mean in just over 150 years, I'd be receiving photos on a phone in my pocket that was taken a few seconds ago by a crew on the Wanganui River in New Zealand, So these kind of massive breakthroughs and leaps are possible. And that cable story is one of perseverance and powerful imagination, and I think it will resonate with, well, I hope it will resonate with audiences today, not only because our hyper-connected world is as a result of the achievements of these telegraph pioneers, but also because it is a story of how seemingly insurmountable problems can be overcome with dedication, brainpower, and lots of money. Yeah, I really do take, like, as I was thinking about today, I was kind of going, well, what does the transatlantic cable have to do with all this? But I do take hope that, scientists, before they even knew what an electron was, were able to send electrical signals 3,000 kilometers across the Atlantic from a tiny hut in Valencia. So if humanity can achieve that, then surely we can harness the smarts of the 21st century to overcome the climate crisis. And the future we can create will be better, healthier, cleaner, fairer version of the world that we have now. And I really believe that for the next few decades, the most important business to be in is protecting the planet. So I would urge anyone considering roles beyond college, please choose planetary friendly ones. Go into companies and transform the culture of the companies to ones that are all about climate action. And don't join companies that are reckless about the planet and therefore reckless about your future. It's up to all of us who care to speak up and lead and advocate for change and action. And, Greta Thunberg has shown us the voice of a young person speaking the truth is plenty powerful. Or go build your own company with a community of people who care as deeply about making the world better as you do. Don't rely on others for change. What's really wonderful about days and events like this is that, apart from the abundance of praise and flattery, which you will all receive later, is that they acknowledge that with a good idea, hard work and focus, you can achieve whatever you want. And that's a really important lesson to learn early. This challenge also shows that people have a range of talents or aptitudes in different areas, and through diversity of personalities, talents, backgrounds, ideas, and approaches, you can tackle a lot of problems. Tapping into the talent around us is really the key to success. And, there's a lot of talk about harnessing Ireland's wind potential, but I really want us to harness Ireland's talent and youth potential, which is so clearly demonstrated by the finalists today. The judges and I had a fascinating morning listening to the presentations of the students, and I'm really inspired by the ingenuity of the project ideas and the hard work demonstrated by the teams in realising their vision. So really, really well done. I don't want to get cheesy, but you are all winners in my eyes. And I really do look forward to seeing what you will achieve. And I have a feeling that I may end up featuring you on 10 Things to Know About in the future, or coming to film with you, because I could see a lot of, fire in the eyes, which is always good. And then for those of you in the audience who are not in the midst of a PhD or are wondering how you can be more sustainable, remember, climate action doesn't have to be complicated or a hardship. Getting involved in your local community garden, getting the bus or cycling, cutting back on meat and dairy, insulating your house, or just simply telling politicians when they turn up on your doorstep for the next election that climate change is important to you, are all valid actions. I was going to drive this morning, and I cycled to the train station in Cork, brought my bike with me, and then had the most beautiful cycle this morning here along the canal bank, listening to the birds, looking at the water, and I was like, well, this is no hardship, and I was doing my little bit. So yeah, I suppose what I want to leave you with is the idea that the future is not yet written, and sitting in this room are people who can determine the shape of that future. Moving to a fossil-free, nature-friendly, sustainable future is going to be the work of my generation and your generation and beyond. And if it seems daunting, remember Nelson Mandela, the great man, said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." So best of luck in all your work. And as a climate-concerned citizen, I thank you in advance for all that you are going to achieve. Gurv Mila Maglev.
Thank you very much, Katrina. Inspiring. And I saw you come in with a bicycle helmet, so I thought that from Cork, that's a journey. Perfect. I think you already highlighted the fact that we need to action. That there is no time for complacency and sitting back or being overwhelmed. So we need to act, and that is where the university prides itself in to be an action-oriented. And our president, I would like to invite her to the stage, will indicate how the university wants to act for this really, really critical range of topics. So, Kirsten, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be here today with you to announce the 5 finalists for the University of Limerick Sustainability Challenge, a challenge that we have asked our students to step up and answer the great challenges of our time. But of course, before I do that, I have been asked to embed the Sustainability Challenge into a broader context, which I will be doing now. Given the importance of sustainability for this institution, this challenge is a perfect exemplar of how we can draw on the ambitions of our ambitious student body to attempt to solve the climate issue and some of the grand challenges of our time. Drawing on the partnerships between the Bernal Institute as part of the Faculty of Science and Engineering, the Kemmy Business School, Building and Estates, and the Research Office, we have asked student groups to step up to the challenges of our time. Over the last number of months, the 5 finalists have taken their project and ideas to new heights, and through the development of your sustainable project, we are now at the culmination point of your efforts. However, I would like to commend all participants and hail each one of you as winners in standing up to accept the challenge and every aim to make a difference. In every way, and aim in every way to make a difference. We have been able to see firsthand that this challenge has allowed us to review and address how we contribute to the circular economy, to the and upcycling of materials, to renewable energies, and the reduction of emissions in transport. A key pillar of our development at UL is sustainability, and with a strong 50-year history in leadership at local, regional, and national levels, we are poised to take advantage of our position as a pioneering university and put it to excellent use in answering these societal issues that we are facing. And these societal issues have an existential level, and Katrina has already talked about that earlier on. The increasing awareness of the impact that humans have on the environment and the urgent need to address this impact has led to a growing interest in sustainability. And rightly so. Climate change, and we heard that already, the resource depletion, declining planetary health, including the loss of biodiversity, are all major challenges that we face today that threaten the further existence of humankind as well as the existence of our planet for the future. And we cannot ignore them. In fact, we actually have to understand the urgency in order to tackle these challenges. So operating in a business as usual mode is over. We have to change the way in which we act. We have to change values, we have to change attitudes, and we have to change behaviors and practices. Universities have a special role to play in addressing these challenges. We are centers of learning, or we could also say ideas factories and think tanks, and also agents for knowledge exchange and transformation. And we are responsible for educating the next generation of leaders. We have a duty to prepare students to face the challenges of the future and to contribute to solutions that will create a sustainable and resilient world and lead us to regenerative approaches. Universities, we all must lead by example. As a mission-based and sustainability-focused university, we are very well aware of the importance in breaking the cycle of take, make, waste. We must practice what we preach and demonstrate that sustainability and resilience are not just buzzwords and not great to have in order to be attractive, but real and achievable goals. In turn, we must become a regenerative institution that not only minimizes the impact on the environment, but contributes to the restoration and regeneration of natural systems. But I would also add of social systems, i.e. aim for social justice in everything that we do. Initiatives like the Sustainability Challenge and many more besides will allow us to capitalize on our strengths, and we will be looking forward to the next 50 years in order to plan and create the purpose for the community to move forward and develop. And while we acknowledge the urgent need to address the environmental challenges that we face as a society, such as we said earlier on, climate change, finite resources, and pollution, there are quite a number of critical issues that we need to tackle if we want to build a better future for ourselves and for the generations to come. And while it is true that the challenges are significant, it is also true that we have the knowledge, the technology, and the resources to make a real difference. The question is, how can we best harness these resources and put them to work to create a more sustainable and resilient work? And while there is great uncertainty with how the world is changing, there's also great opportunity. And in seeing an opportunity, this university is moving to being the first mission-based university in Ireland. That is to create the purpose, the urgency, and the resolve to establish sustainability in everything we do. There are a number of tangible initiatives and missions that we have already undertaken to support our sustainable moves, including our recent climate action roadmap that is incredibly innovative, including recommendations for government. And the work of today's 5 finalists is further evidence of that. Furthermore, we believe that our position in the region will allow us to capitalize on the opportunities here on the Atlantic coast and in the Shannon estuary. Sustainable and green energy, supported and developed by the pipeline of talent and the connections we share with stakeholders in industry, will allow us to create a sustainable future for all. As a research-led institution, we are at the forefront of creating narratives, driving change, and making impact for the city, for the region, and for the nation. And this is hugely important for our purpose as a university and for the future generations to come, or for the generations to come. I would like to congratulate the finalists as well as all the entrants to the Sustainability Challenge, showing their willingness and desire to be the heartbeat of sustainability. And I would like to thank Katrina Devereaux for her address. The wider group of bringing the Student Challenge to our community, including Professor Luc van de Wielen, the director of the Bernal Institute, Professor Finbar Murphy, the Executive Dean of the Kemmy Business School, Dr. Rita Buckley at the Department of Economics in the Kemmy Business School, Robert Reedy was already mentioned, the Director of Building and Estates, Chris Fogarty, our Energy Manager in Building and Estates, Christine Brennan, our Research Strategy and Policy Manager in the Research Office, and Anya O'Neill, who was mentioned, who has left us, who headed up the communications, and Irma Horrigan, the project officer at the Bernal Institute in the Faculty of Science and Engineering. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President. So with this all as an inspiring introduction, we move to the centerpiece of what we are going to discuss today. One by one, I will ask to come forward our teams of finalists. The finalists are, in a way, they are all winners. So we give them all the same prize. That is what you see right here. This is maybe a bit smallish because, you know, big things. But it is a piece of art from a Dutch sculpture by the name of Amerlaan. And what it shows is 2 persons. I think it is men, but that was apparently, there was not a female in that collection yet. But lifting a task from the ground and doing that collectively. So it is a useful thing because you can put a picture in it, but and it is not biodegradable, but it's durable, which is probably as important. But we have that for all of you. But that is certainly what you will be getting. So, having said that, I would like to invite the first team on my list, that's William O'Brien and Mihai Penica, to come forward. The video will be shown, and they have maximum of 5 minutes to explain what is not yet explained in the video. So let the movie roll.
My name is Mihai Penica. I'm a PhD student here in UL. I'm in my 4th year of PhD. My field of study is interoperability, but applying AI to interoperability. Develop low power consumption electronics that can interact with AI systems.
My name is William O'Brien. I'm a 3rd year PhD researcher. I'm based down in Confirm. It's a centre for smart manufacturing, and we do a lot of research in the use of 5G, smart manufacturing and interoperability use cases.
Our project is designed to do a thermal analysis on a building using drones and thermal cameras, basically how to reduce the heat loss in the building. Because we are flying the drone, we took advantage of that, and we are trying to determine the total square area of the roof and determine the tilt grade on the roof and everything, so we can determine exactly how many solar panels you can install on the roof and how much energy you can generate every year.
So, and as well as that, we'd also like to make it as easy to use as possible. So we're kind of implementing kind of a Google Maps platform that you can click in, type your area code in, you can see for that particular building what kind of solar output you'll get and what kind of thermal analysis is, like where issues lie, such as cold bridges, issues around windows and stuff like that as well.
It can be done with any average drone, and what we are trying to do right now is we have some issue with regulations using drones. Okay, so you cannot fly the drone, less than 50 meters from buildings, people, roads, and all that stuff. We're trying to basically create a mobile app that you can connect to a thermal camera, and using the app, you can do whatever, the same thing what you have done with using a drone. So basically, you can use your mobile phone with a thermal camera paired to an analysis of your building.
So the project idea really came from the whole energy crisis there in the past, I suppose, 12 months really. We just kind of wanted to see how homeowners could actually make their homes better. You buy a lot of gas, you buy a lot of coal, you buy a lot of oil. You need to know why am I spending so much on it? Can I actually reduce it by maybe targeting such deep retrofits in your home?
So we started by getting the drones. That was the first step in starting the process, and the thermal cameras. We had some issues there.
Supply chain challenges, and just they didn't really come till March or April. But with AI and stuff, a lot of it can be trained using online data, so that really wasn't impacted that whole pile. We'd love to have targeted a lot more buildings, but just due to time constraints we couldn't. But I think we're quite happy with what we got so far, and the fact that we'll have it all available on Google Maps, and we'll have all our data available on GitHub that anyone can implement it themselves for use. Will be, I suppose, be very nice and can really go beyond the project once it's all finished.
We only have one planet, and we should take care of it. And today, with the technologies today, and having access to all this technology, will help us take care of our planet. We have to think in future generations, because this is where this is going, and we have to use technology to do that.
Be happy if you won, winning is if it's not winning, it's not everything, it isn't, it doesn't, we all made good projects, we're all happy with what we did today, we're happy if we won, but we're happy we also took part. This project can be, I suppose, it can be implemented further beyond UL. It's not just for us, and we never intend it just to be for us, we're not guarding our product here. We'd rather people build on it, That's the whole point of, I suppose, making it publicly available, all this data afterwards, So I hope it actually does go on beyond this, It isn't, I hope other people, I suppose, pick up the pieces where we left off,
Hi everyone. So today I'll be talking a little bit about Talbot. What's Talbot? So basically, Talbot is a thermal bridge reduction. Okay, so this what we try to do with Talbot is to find a way of using AI to help out people reduce their heat losses, and also come up with the information about how much energy they can save, how much green energy they can produce as well. So Talbot is a system to identify area of energy inefficiency in buildings and measures to target improvements. I want to say that behind Talbot, there's like a few AI models that identifies where energy losses are happening and comes up with meters. Basically, it shows exactly how much energy you lose by using AI. We harvest footage from multiple sources and angles into one unified software solution. We got thermal imaging from drone mounted basically we mounted a thermal camera on a drone, and we used that to get thermal images of the house. Because we had some issue with chain supply, because as we know, thermal cameras can have double purpose, so it was very hard to get them. We started working on a project at the beginning of March. We started working on the project at the beginning of March. And, but meanwhile, we started gathering data that was available on the internet, data sets for thermal data sets and everything we could find around. But once we had the camera, we start gathering our own data. We call our friends, we ask them if we can take photos and videos of their houses using thermal cameras, and we built our own models there. Because drone is very regulated today, basically you cannot fly a drone within 30 meters of people, 30 meters of buildings, 30 meters of roads. We had to involve the Chris team in the electronics department that they are allowed to fly drones inside UL. So they gave us a hand there. We worked together with our project mentor, Chris. We would like to thank him for that, because he helped us a lot. And we picked up some buildings around UL to basically do the thermal analysis and see exactly how many solar panels we can install on that. So we came up with the IBC2 building, the main building, library phase 1 and 2, and the CSIS building. In the end, we decided that the CSIS building was chosen as the best option due to safety and efficiency. Like I said, because UL is a EA control experts, we involved Chris in helping out with that. We also took some thermal images using a handlet, so just to see exactly if our system can process that type of data, and that helps a lot. So we got to a conclusion that we can do a thermal analysis on the building also using just a handlet, a FLIR camera with a phone. You can go around the building. And once you have that video, you can put it in the system, and it will produce the same results as having the thermal camera installed on the drone and flying it around the building. The only thing we couldn't get out of that was the roof. So we couldn't film on the roof. So that's a thermal loss that we couldn't get out of that. Because we are flying drones, we are thinking to take advantage of that. Because when you fly the drone, you have access, and you can see the whole roof. So we are thinking taking advantage of that, and using AI, we can determine how many square meters you have on the roof, how many panels you can install on the roof, and based on the location, the latitude, longitude, we can determine exactly what's the amount of power we can produce daily, and what's the amount of power you can produce yearly. That's green power. That's green energy that you can just produce by using your roof at home. Also, like I said, because we are using drone, we basically, when we film the roof, the AI identifies the pitch, the angle of the roof, and that gives even more accuracy on the amount of power you can produce yearly.
So yeah, I'll just go through the data presentation that we're going to do for the end users. So I suppose we had to make a way that we're getting so much data in. How are we going to make it nice for the user to pick up and have a look and see what they can do with their own house and stuff like that? So if it was implemented, let's say more houses were put into it, what we could do is we could actually get the user to put in their area code, and they can go on the map, select their property, and they can get an output of what kind of building it is, what's the size of the roof area, what's the total solar output you can get out of that roof. And you can get the thermal analysis, some data we got out of it, and you can get, I suppose, the raw outputs from between videos and videos of thermal, videos of the normal one, and just have it all there that you can see it afterwards, that you can do your own analysis even on it if you wanted to. So we also I suppose, suggest what the users can do as well if they want to retrofits, upgrades, all like that. So we did a recent Twitter campaign the past month there, I suppose, which has gained a lot of attention. I suppose each post are getting around 300 or 400, if not more, I suppose, hits. So a good impact there. The use of AI, I suppose, and hardware integrated together has really sparked a lot of interest of people. People are really interested in it, because I suppose it's an AI is a word that's thrown around a lot, but maybe not, I suppose, implemented that well. But we also, I suppose, another one is that the nature of off-the-shelf products really, and that putting them in together in different ways really, I suppose, really gets the interest of STEM education together, you know, seeing letting people like put stuff that shouldn't be, or not shouldn't be, but, you know, that had different purposes could be put together in different ways. So we've large impact in the deployment of AI to detect the heat loss and PV energy output, just through a user-friendly platform. So as we mentioned, so we'll be publishing this all to GitHub as well, so that people after us can take on this project, do what they want with it, change it around, and so hopefully this in turn will reduce overall energy consumption. So, and then also, I suppose, going back to the UN Sustainability Development Goals, we align with the Sustainability Development Goal 7, which is affordable and clean energy for all. We demonstrate this with the potential for significant energy savings for people's homes if they go ahead with deep retrofits and all like that and get the grants and go ahead with the SEI and stuff. The project also contributes to Sustainability Development Goal 13 on climate action and change. So we hope this project will have an impact on both education and sustainability with potential for widespread implementation and benefits. So that's just a 3D model we have as well, and I suppose that's what we have, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. And of course, there are all sorts of questions possible to our finalists, but not now. They have been answering those this morning with the jury already who grilled them on this. So we just move on to the next presentation of Rebecca Tumwebaze. If I'm not sure that I pronounce your name really well, but and that is about harnessing heterogeneous knowledge for sustainable agriculture. So really, for now, something different.
My name is Rebecca Tumwebaze. I am a third-year PhD student at the Kemmy Business School. My study is in knowledge and information management, but I'm particularly focusing on a case of agriculture knowledge management in the context of Uganda in East Africa. My project was born out of my PhD research, and we looked at a specific case of Rubaya sub-county. And the staple food in this sub-county and in most of Uganda is green banana, highland, also known as highland cooking banana, or locally known as matoke by the people of Rubaya. When I went into the field last year, I was trying to study the different agriculture knowledge types and forms that are out there in Uganda. And one of the things I observed was that there was a social hierarchy in the agriculture sector in Uganda. For example, I observed that the knowledge held by smallholder farming communities was looked at as inefficient, outdated by other actors. And yet the knowledge held by people who were further up in the hierarchy was coveted by the system because it looked at things like agriculture modernization, industrialization, and commercialization. So my concern was, how do I get these knowledge types to come together and develop new practices that are sustainable for us as a community? I was working with collaborators from Gulu University, and we went into Rubaya sub-county and identified diverse knowledge actors. We looked at smallholder farmers, commercial farmers, private sector players, technical agriculture specialists, government extension officers, local opinion leaders, and we brought these together in conversation about their farming practices. And in these processes, they were able to point out the different practices under every process. And then under each of these practices, we were able to evaluate the practice based on the sustainability attributes. For me, this was very timely. It is very important that we openly talk about the practices, because together, that is how we can develop our sustainable agriculture practices. we also documented the practices that were developed by the community. So this book has been developed in simple language for the local community to understand, and it has the practices that were deemed the most sustainable in the context of Rubaya Sub-County. For me, the benefits of the collaborative workshops are not just in this book, but rather in the conversations that we had. And my hope is that these conversations can continue to go on within the community, because sustainable agriculture practices must be developed always, and they are context specific. Being a finalist in the UL Sustainability Challenge has been a great opportunity for me. It's been amazing for me to go back in Uganda and contribute practically to the community of Uganda. Previously, when I went into Uganda, I went in to collect data. I'm glad that because of the UL Sustainability Challenge, this time I was able to go in and to do something practical to benefit the community. Honestly, I already feel like a winner. Going into Rubaya and putting smiles on the people of Rubaya and engaging them in the sustainability discussion was a win for me. And that was the most important part. Thank you very much, everyone. Once again, my name is Rebecca. Welcome back from Rubaya. I believe you were there in that video. I'll just give a brief overview of the information that wasn't in the video. So when I went out, I had 3 objectives, and briefly I'll tell you how I achieved the 3 objectives. So my first objective was to facilitate knowledge sharing workshops in Rubaya. And as you saw in the field, I went out to Rubaya. I engaged diverse agriculture actors in the matoke production chain, and we sat together. We had both indoor settings where we had conference-like discussions, but then we also went outdoor right in the matoke gardens, and people were able to develop their practices. They were able to talk about what is sustainable. They were able to evaluate based on 3 attributes. We asked about, for every practice, we were able to ask 3 questions. Is a practice environmentally non-degrading? Is it socially acceptable? Is it economically viable? And it is those practices that finally made it into our manual. Our participants were very keen on learning about sustainability, and we also commissioned them as our change agents to go into the community and pass on this knowledge to their families, to their communities, to their neighbors, and that's how we'll achieve sustainability, because sustainability is context specific. What is sustainable to us here in Ireland is not what is sustainable in the community of Rubaya. So we have to go down to the communities. And for me, this also goes to the knowledge management fraternity, which I'm part of, that we have to go beyond sitting in organizations or in air-conditioned rooms to decide on what is sustainable, but to go down into the communities and work with communities to inform them about sustainability. So what was the main output here? Right from the collaborative workshops, we're able to develop our sustainable agriculture framework, which sustainable agriculture framework calls for knowledge-sharing platforms that can be virtual or physical. In our case, we went for physical, that call for commodity-specific organizations. In our case, we're looking at a case of matoke. We bring on board relevant, diverse actors with different knowledge. When we talk about diversity, we are looking at gender, we are looking at age, we are looking at category of stakeholder, the skills and experiences that they bring on board. All these possess knowledge, and we must harness it if we want to achieve sustainable agriculture. And we are focusing on our 3 questions. Is a practice environmentally non-degrading? Is it socially acceptable? Is it economically viable? And all these lead us to owning our knowledge as communities, adapting and applying sustainable agriculture practices. And finally, our third objective was to develop a manual for sustainable matoke farming. The knowledge in this manual is the knowledge that was developed in the collaborative workshops. The manual is a booklet of practices of sustainable matoke farming. The knowledge in the manual is developed and owned by the people of Rubaya. They can pass it on. But most importantly, it was just not about the knowledge that was documented, but the conversations, and the conversations that we hope can go on. But also the conversations that we were able to disseminate our outcomes of the workshops to the policymakers and other communities in Gulu University, so that they know how we expect knowledge sharing and knowledge co-creation to happen in communities. So about our project, what was our impact? What are our outputs? Well, we had 24 participants who engaged in the knowledge sharing workshops. We commissioned these as change agents. They are out there. They are telling their families about it. They are telling communities. They are influencing neighbors, and sustainable agriculture practices in Rubaya, we hope, will continue to be talked about. We had 40 participants in our dissemination workshops. In these workshops, we focused on agriculture extension officers, government players, and agriculture researchers and technocrats, and we told them what it should be, not the traditional top-bottom approach of knowledge dissemination into communities, but all involving knowledge co-creation approaches that bring everybody to the table, so that we have practices that are acceptable and adaptable. We had 40 manuals printed out and distributed in the Rubaya community. And then we had a new research network between the Faculty of Agriculture and Environment at Gulu University and the Human Rights and Development Practice Research Center at Kemmy Business School, which I belong to. And together we worked on this project, and we believe we will have many more opportunities for collaboration. Still to come, research publications, conferences, and a lot of work will be ongoing. Just to conclude that this work contributed to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. When I started out, I was looking at 2 goals, Sustainable Goal 2 about zero hunger, and 15 about life on land. But in the end, we have touched many others. We have made a contribution to sustainable communities. We have made a contribution to gender equality, because we brought women in the villages onto the table for discussion. We have looked at reduced inequalities, because we brought policymakers together with communities on the table. So we have touched much more than we thought we would touch when we went into the field. Thank you very much to the UL Sustainability Challenge and to my mentors and supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Very enthusiastic. And now you understand the complexity of the jury's task to compare this diversity of apples and oranges and bananas, mutakes as we know by now. So let's move on to further increase the diversity and look into recycled PET by 3D printing, and that will be Alice Shannon and Emma Jude Lyons. Please go ahead.
My name is Alice Shannon, and I'm doing a material science PhD in relation to 3D printing, and my background is physics and material science.
And my name is Emma Jude Lyons, and I'm doing a PhD with the Rapid Innovation Unit on 3D printing at the point of care for breast cancer patients, and my undergraduate is in product design from UL.
Our project is called Repeated.
So the aim of our project is to recycle waste plastic water bottles from the UL campus and process them and turn them into 3D printing filament that can be used then for a variety of different reasons.
So we're looking at local waste to shorten the supply chains, and then we'll also be using the 3D printed filament locally, again shortening the supply chain. So we had a look at the UN sustainability goals, and then we had a look at our own skill sets to see how we could apply those to the sustainability goals specifically.
As my background is in product design and Alice's background is in physics and material science, and our common background is in 3D printing, we use both sets of skills combined together with our 3D printing in order to address some of the sustainability goals, and that's where our project leaded into 3D printing filament from recycled plastic bottles.
We were delighted, obviously, to be selected as finalists for the UL Sustainability project. Once we found out, then we immediately started looking at what items to order, what was within budget. We kind of made a decision early on that we wanted to scale up the project after, that we wouldn't be focusing on just the deadline between November and April. So we were able to invest really well in the shredder, the dryer and the filament extruder. Once you get the plastic bottle, you need to cut the label, remove it, remove the glue, remove the cap and then the seal that holds the cap on. And then, because we're collecting the bottles from the UL community, they need to be washed and then dried, and then they move on to the next stage of the process.
So we then put the plastic bottle into a shredder. So this grinds up the material and it also granulates it. So then it comes out the bottom. We have to re-dry it again in case any moisture has been collected in that process. And then we put it into an extruder. So you're putting the granulation and the flakes into the extruder and you're coming out with this at the end. So this is the plastic water bottles that we collected from the UL campus, and it has been turned into this filament.
We have a few ideas for scaling up.
We want to collaborate with the UL Makerspace in the library, product design and technology, and other engineering groups around the campus in order to collect their support material that they would have used in printing and also their field prints, so that we can actually take that waste, recycle it and turn it into proper 3D printing filament that we can then use and give back to those said groups as well.
Yeah, we're delighted to be a finalist in the UL Sustainability Challenge. We focused initially on just getting past the pitch stage and we didn't really expect much, but now that we're here, we're delighted that we've been given this opportunity to do this at this stage of our careers.
And with having such a high calibre of students and intellect on the campus, it's really uplifting and positive that we've actually been a part of the finalists and that we're here and that our project that we've been working hard on has been so impactful. No, it's a real privilege.
If we were to win, it would be fantastic.
But I guess even if we weren't to win, we still have such an impactful solution that we have such big plans for, that we're going to be able to continue the work nonetheless. But of course, it would be fantastic to win.
So, as it said on the video, my name is Alice.
And my name is Emma Jude.
So we are going to talk about our project, the Repeated project. So Repeated stands for Recycled, PET, 3D Printed. The main aim of the Repeated project was to convert waste plastic water bottles into 3D printing filament.
So, not to spoil the project, but we turned plastic water bottles and we turned it into 3D printing filament from which we can actually print. So we printed our lovely little keyrings with our logo on them, but we can give back now to the people that we collected it from proper 3D printing filament that they can then use themselves in a variety of different ways. So what we're going to do now is take you to the processing line that we've actually built and created throughout our whole project. So we started with a bottle drive in UL. We collected hundreds, if not thousands, of plastic water bottles, and we sorted them, organised them, and processed them. While we did this, we documented our whole project. So we have a repeated TikTok, so if you want to go follow us, you can. And we started processing them all. So the first step is to process them. You have a little processing station, which we repurposed a lot of the different things that we had already in our lab. So to process these bottles, we remove the cap and we remove the closure ring. They're set aside into a polypropylene box that we can then recycle them at a later date. And then we remove the label and we remove the glue. And then these are ready for the next step in the process, which is the washing process. So we repurposed this old wash station as part of our project, and we modified it so that it could wash our bottles perfectly for us. So you set the wash cycle, you place the bottles on top like you can see in the video there. That shoots water up through the bottles to clean them, and then compressed air is also shot up so that it removes the majority of the water from inside the bottle. So once they're washed, they then move on to the drying process. So we repurposed a bouncy castle blower to actually circulate the air through this drying rack that we made ourselves. So this circulates the air through for approximately half an hour to 45 minutes to make sure that the plastic is completely dry and ready for the next step.
So now we have clean PET with no contaminants. So the next step is to reduce the bottle down into a smaller size. So the shredder here basically popped the bottle into the shredder, and we are left with these really small plastic fragments. Because PET takes in moisture from the environment, we then need to dry it. So it goes into another dryer, and after 3 hours we have really good PET quality with no contaminants, and that's ready to go into our extruder. So on the left you can see our filament extruder. The flakes are fed into the extruder and they are pushed through the barrel at high temperature, 250 degrees. So that's another reason why we need to dry out the material really well. If any water gets into this, it could explode because it's steam at 250 degrees. Going from room temperature to 250 degrees would be really bad. It could damage the machine and also produce air bubbles in our filament, which we don't want. So the variables of the extruder, there are 4 different sections along here where the temperatures are completely adjustable. Then the speed at which the material is being pushed out of the extruder is a variable as well. And then either side of the filament on the right, it's hard to see with the lighting, but there's a fan on either side because that needs to be cooled down very quickly into a semi-solid state, and then it's wound around the spool to create 3D printing filament. Once we have the spool of filament like this, that can be used on nearly any 3D printer. So you can see on the left, we used a conveyor belt 3D printer that we already had within our lab. This was able to produce the key rings really easily, and it could continuously run without being supervised. So the 3D printer works by feeding the filament into the print head. The nozzle then melts the plastic and places it layer by layer.
So we would just like to say thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much as well to Colin, who was our mentor. Yeah, and that's it. That is our process of recycling plastic bottles.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This was a project that was clearly more equipment heavy. And of course, you can't do this sort of project without, something like a starting cash. They used it to leverage the whatever we could contribute to each of the projects. They used it to leverage and get further investment. So that's another thing that we try to inspire. A more entrepreneurial approach to the project. If resources are lacking, you just get more of those. So let's move on to number 4, who is Eva Huge. Please, Eva, come forward about sustainable shores, and we will see same concept with the video first.
My name is Eva Hughes, and I'm a PhD applicant in the School of Education. I'm hoping to do research on using negotiated integrated curriculum to figure out what are the essentials for education in democratic societies. And I'll be working with second-level students to co-construct learning around their concerns, which has a huge focus on sustainable development goals. Sustainable Shores, Ireland's Life Below Water is a project that uses education and citizen science to help tackle Goal 14, Life Below Water in Ireland, through biodiversity monitoring workshops, ecosystem monitoring workshops, conducting ecological assessments of the university, and through the creation of a book and website. This project hopes to increase awareness of Goal 14, awareness of what the targets of Goal 14 are, and what are the realistic solutions that individuals and communities and businesses, institutes, everything can take to actually reach Goal 14. So ever since I was a kid, I've always been extremely passionate about marine and freshwater life. And I think what fascinates me is just the incredible biodiversity that is below the surface of our waters. And oftentimes, I think people don't realize the incredible biodiversity that is there in our freshwater lakes and streams, our ponds, our rivers, and in every rock pool along the coast. And what really inspired me to do this project is that in my own lifetime, species that I would have seen, every single time you go to the seashore, species that used to be common, are now disappearing at an alarming rate. And I have seen species that would have featured hugely in my childhood, I can no longer find them at the coast. So I think for me, that's really highlighted the scale of biodiversity loss that we're facing. The book part of this project originally started as part of my FYP, with my supervisor, Dr. Audrey O'Grady. And the goal of that was to develop a book that I could use to teach secondary school students seashore ecology. And from that, and through the incredible opportunity of the Sustainability Challenge, I've been able to turn that book into a comprehensive guide to Ireland's biodiversity, ecology, and sustainability. So to date, Sustainable Shores has been able to conduct a full ecological assessment of the University of Limerick's freshwater habitats. We've been able to gather data on what kind of species are present and whether or not those habitats are at risk of pollution. We've been able to use this data to build a baseline for future assessments, and it's being used to inform policy around the University of Limerick. We've also looked at eliminating unsustainable practices around campus, and one of the core goals of this project was to publish the book Sustainable Shores, Ireland's Life Below Water. The images in the book are all mine. I've spent thousands of hours along rivers and streams and along the coast in Ireland taking pictures of these creatures. And what I really hope to show people is that, you don't have to go to the Great Barrier Reef to see brightly coloured fish. They are in our rock pools and they're in our streams. It feels absolutely incredible to be a finalist in the Sustainability Challenge. And to me, it means that the university is really and truly invested in becoming a regenerative university, in getting our green campus accreditation, in protecting and strengthening the ecosystems that we have on our campus. I think if Sustainable Shores won the challenge, I don't know what I'd say. I'd be incredibly honoured. To 5-year-old me, it would mean that her favourite rock pools are now being protected and that people are caring about what she cared about when she was 5 years old.
Hi, so you're all very welcome to my mini presentation. I just realized I'm wearing the same outfit I was wearing in the video. So, quick intro to Sustainable Shores. So the project originally started as my final year project, and with the help of my supervisor Audrey, I was able to get the Science and Engineering Summer Research Bursary to continue work over the summer, and then she advised me to go to the Sustainability Challenge, and through her help and through the support of my mentor Chris, we're here. It's been incredible. So the project, it's designed to tackle Goal 14, Life Below Water, and to support Ireland in addressing our biodiversity loss crisis through education, citizen science, and through action. So we hope to build a shared understanding of Goal 14 and to actually use that understanding and use the communities we build to develop solutions to Goal 14 that work for everyone. So Goal 14, I know we hear lots about the Sustainable Development Goals, but sometimes it can be a bit confusing to actually know what they are. So with Goal 14, it's to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources. And we extended that to include our freshwater habitats as well and to make it local to Ireland. Goal 14 has 7 outcome targets and 3 means to achieve those targets. So to increase scientific knowledge, resources, research and technology, support small-scale fishers, and to implement international sea law. So the aims of this project were based on that. So we've got 5 core aims of increasing awareness and understanding of Goal 14, developing communities and empowering communities of citizen scientists, eradicating unsustainable practices, promoting collaborative solutions and sustainable practices that work for everyone, and then preventing damage to and then restoring our aquatic and marine ecosystems. So throughout the project, we've actually been able to conduct 3 different ecological assessments of the UL campus. We've looked at species diversity and we've done 2 biotic indices. We have used this information to inform policy around the University of Limerick campus, and we are working to, we're still in the process of changing that policy, but we've been able to eradicate certain unsustainable practices already. We have had lots of local engagement and outreach activities. We've developed a school outreach program for freshwater ecology. We've had radio interviews on local stations and collaboration with key non-government organisations for Goal 14. One of the main outputs, of course, is the Sustainable Shores book. So it is a comprehensive guide to our ecology, biodiversity and sustainability for Ireland, for local areas. It's essentially a guide to becoming a citizen scientist, and it will teach you key skills about how you can do that. And it covers, over 100 species, many of which you can find on the UL campus. So for more information on the project, you can go to our website, which hosts lots of resources and downloadable things that you can use, information and news on Goal 14 and this project, and then our Twitter, which is our main kind of community engagement platform, but it will directly to the website. But the Twitter as well, we post updates on project actions and interesting things that we've found. We'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks a rare species that we found during our ecological assessment that has been seen 11 times in Ireland since the year 2000, so keep a lookout, it's going to be exciting. And on the website and on the Twitter, you can find lots of resources like key steps that you can take right now as an individual to help Goal 14 and to reach Goal 14. So spreading the word, number one, stop using plastic. We've heard some of these recommendations earlier, like reducing your red meat consumption. And the two fish there on the side are sticklebacks. One is a picture taken in the stream around one of the university buildings in January, and the next picture is that same fish in April. They change colour, which is pretty cool. And the last thing I want to show you guys is just, if you take a look at those marine creatures there, they're all very colourful and quite diverse. And I want you to think, realistically, do you think you could find these in Ireland, or would they be seen somewhere like the Great Barrier Reef or tropical diving somewhere? Because what the goal of this project is to gather all of the resources and all the information we have on reaching Goal 14 and put it in one place to make it accessible to everyone. And what I hope this shows you is, well, first of all of those creatures were pictures I took in the pollicles in Kilkee. They're all Irish. They are all found in somewhere as simple as a rock pool. And, I'm not a scientist. What this project does is show you that you don't have to be a scientist to reach Goal 14. You don't have to be a scientist to contribute to saving Ireland's freshwater and marine biodiversity. And this project empowers everyone to be a citizen science. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Eva, and she's available for autographs of the book later today. She also indicated, maybe a little bit more explicit than others, so we have usually an academic supervisor or coach or related to the teams, as well as a mentor who looks more in the project possibilities, but also how to translate it to our own situation, campus, and so on. The next and last project before we go over to, or the president goes over to announcing the winner, is a project with a simple name, CARE. But if you start looking where CARE for is, it is clean, accessible, renewable and efficient energy. And that deals all with producing hydrogen, but then without the rare metals that you see in the current practices. It is a project by Raju Lipin, and this is difficult, Niamh Terranova. Please come forward.
I'm Raju Lipin. I'm a PhD student at the Chemical Science Department and also the Bernal Institute. I'm working on computational electrocatalysis under the supervision of Matthias Vandichel.
My name is Niamh Terranova and I'm a second year undergrad. I'm studying applied physics in UL. I'm the only undergrad to be in this competition who made it to the final. I feel like a little fish in a big pool. Raju has been one of my mentors. I'm so excited to be undertaking this project with him and I'm so happy that we got this far.
Our project is about designing and synthesizing novel materials, which is non-toxic and also abundant as electrocatalyst. So the main purpose of electrocatalyst, which we have proposed, is for hydrogen evolution reaction, that is producing hydrogen gas. And we know how important hydrogen gas is.
What's the big problem right now? Sustainability, climate change, clean energy.
And also not harm the environment. That was a main concern for us. Our project is basically two halves. One is theoretical, another is experimental.
We knew it was going to be a big task to basically build a catalyst from the ground up. As Lippin said, we're working on two halves. There's the computational side, where we're sending things to the Irish supercomputer, and that's coming back with new forms of the catalyst, with new configurations. And then we're also lucky enough to be in the Bernal, surrounded by such amazing minds. And we're so lucky that we have it here in Limerick. And Matthias, Michael Scanlon, we're so lucky to have them guiding us.
And we are constantly also supervised and monitored by our mentor, who's Luke, the director of the Bernal, who has been very supportive in all our progress. So we really have a good team. To be fair, even theoretical and experimental side both are challenging. We don't want to just simply predict stuff and leave it like that. Rather predict and also see it in the lab. We are following new methodologies. There are so many issues with already existing literature, which we keep finding every day. So we rerun calculations, we do the whole work again. Every week it's a new thing we get. Sometimes we don't get anything at all.
We don't expect this to solve all of the world's problems all at once, but it can be a blueprint. The hardest thing in science is having the blueprint. It's knowing where to start, and it's knowing the steps to get you there. If we have a comprehensive plan of this is what we did first, then we did this, then we did this, it is 100 times easier for other people to follow a similar path. Just remember, after the finalists were announced, I was going to the library for study week. And as I walked in with my friends, there behind us was a big picture of me with the UL president. And I was like, wow, like that is unexpected. But it's so amazing to see that we can actually do something that matters. It's not just, again, on a global scale, it's us.
It's more about what impact we make, and whether it's small or big, we did have, that's what we are doing. So it's really good. It will be a wonderful thing if we get this.
Yeah, hi. So as I said in the video, my name is Niamh, and this is my partner Lippin for this project. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview of our project and what's it about. So basically, what we're doing here is we're trying to develop a novel, non-metal, low-toxic electrocatalyst for the HEOR reaction, where basically we're taking water and we're splitting it in an electrocatalytic cell, and we're getting hydrogen from one of the electrodes. As we know, hydrogen is a great, clean, renewable source of energy, and it's sustainable. And if we could make hydrogen energy feasible on a large scale, it could really solve a lot of our problems. But the most common catalysts used for hydrogen evolution right now are the noble metals, which are scarce, they're pollutants, they're hard to come by, so we're looking at something else. So basically, we are focusing mostly on phosphorine and graphene as our materials, and our project is split into two halves. So we have the theory side, which is going on in the Macatamo group in UL, where we are creating models, and as I said in the video, we're sending them to the supercomputer. So we're modeling hydrogen absorption, HEOR activity, and strain effects on our models. And then also we're looking at experiments. So again, there's two parts to our experiment. There's the University of Twente in the Netherlands that is to come, but we also are lucky enough in the Bernal to have the Scanlon Electrochemistry Lab, where they're currently carrying out liquid-liquid interface to try and somehow create our material, which I'm sure is going on as we speak. And we hope that these two things brought together will bring us some kind of heterostructure, or at least some kind of blueprint to catalyst making in the future.
Yeah, to talk some results. So as our project is mostly devoted to understanding atomistic properties. So we want to see how things work at the atomistic level. So we have two approaches, like Neve said. One is theoretical, and another is experiment, where we make the material. And the theoretical is done using density functional theory with softwares. And for example, this is an example of phosphorine, and we try to do different reactions. Yeah, so for example, this is one layer of phosphorine. This is like an analog to graphene, which is very famous. So we choose phosphorine for that reason, because nowadays phosphorine has been called like an alternative for graphene, and also you can see that we tried different effects. One is with one monolayer, two monolayers, and three monolayers, and try to understand what's the activity for hydrogen evolution reaction. And you can see that the two monolayer and three monolayers are much closer to zero. Zero is the descriptor for hydrogen evolution reactions. Further, we went on to study strain. That was one of the objectives. What happens if you strain the system, that is pull and compress it? And again, we got some interesting results where you can see that the red line, which is more closer to zero, showing that strain does have an effect on the hydrogen evolution reaction. And further, as I said, our work is also to couple our phosphorine with other carbon materials, which are carbon materials mainly because we don't want to focus on anything metallic, toxic, and so on. So we were also evaluating some of the phosphorine, graphene heterostructures with different doping and stuff like that. And again, we can see from that graph something closer to zero, which is again showing that defects in graphene could enhance the reaction. And further, we try to improve the model, as you could have seen in the video, where we always find some faulty literature. So we wanted to make the models more better and better. So now we are going with a bigger model, and we are trying to study what's the interaction between this and how it's going to impact the hydrogen evolution reactions. Further, as we said, we have two phases. One is experiment, and another is theory. So theory is going on with improved models now. And for experiments, for now, we have gone with Scanlan's electrochemistry group. They have been very helpful for us, and personally been guiding us to make these kind of materials at the liquid-liquid interface. So we have an aqueous layer, an organic layer, and we get the material as a polymer embedded with our carbon or phosphorine and stuff. So this polymer is conductive polymer, which is going to enhance the conductivity of the process during hydrogen evolution reactions. So further, as you can see that film, that's how you're going to get the material, which is one interesting way to scale up. So this approach can help us to get the material in a more bigger, like with a large surface area. Further, we run some experiments, and we can see that black thing, there's a layer formed, and that's the film being formed. And we run some cyclic voltammetry to understand how it goes. And for now, this is just a starting. So for now, it hasn't evolved. The hydrogen evolution hasn't come out, because this is only pure system, which is only graphene and the polymer. We have not yet put the phosphorine yet. That's what is going on now. Further, so some interesting things with what we can do with this is the Power-to-X technology, which Neve can just...
Yeah, so basically then the question is, where does this go next? So as we know in Ireland, we have a great capacity to make wind energy, but even just in Shannon Port, the big new wind farm being created offshore there. So this energy can be very hard to store. So instead of putting our energy into trying to store it, we should just bring it straight to electrolysis. So there we can use up the energy created by the wind straight away, split it up into our hydrogen gas, and then, as you can see from this model is all about the excess creation of energy and then using it through different lanes. So it can be put into aviation, into transport, into chemicals, into factories, and it would be a really good alternative to the current fossil fuels that we use now. So that is all from us. We'd like to give a big thank you to UL for supporting us, to the Macatamo group, and of course to our mentor, Luke.
If your chemistry has become a little bit rusty, we have dusted it off for once. Very good. And of course, we hoped for modeling because we thought it was cheaper instead of expensive experiments. But I see that the experiments were still part of it. We move to the conclusion. And the process is the following. The president will come forward, announces the winner. And then after, we will give the awards to all, because we believe that all are winners, but there is one winner over winners. And after that, take picture, and there is coffee, and so on. So, yeah, next step, who is the winner? President.
It's a bit like being at the Oscars. So. I think we first go to highly commended for the individual project, and that is Eva Hughes, Sustainable Shores, Islands, Life Below Water. Where's Eva? Now, the dramatic moment. The overall winner is Rebecca Tumwebaze. And of course, as Luke said, everyone is a winner. So many congratulations to all the finalists. Very well done. And you really set an example of what can be achieved in UL. And hopefully many students, graduates are to follow your example. Thanks so much. Thank you.
So if all would come forward, then we make pictures right there. Do we? Yep, we do. Yep, we do. So all teams, please come forward. All others could already go downstairs. There's the coffee and other refreshments are downstairs. But please, winners first. President and Katrina, you're also most welcome to be on that one.